We're going to call our meeting to order, but we're going to start with our pledge. But first, I'm going to call the Girl Scouts, representatives from the Girl Scouts up. That we're going to do this pledge down there today, and they're going to lead us tonight. Over here. Go ahead. Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty, justice for all. And so we have a proclamation tonight for our Girl Scouts. We have representatives from the Girl Scouts here. For Girl Scout Week, March 10th to March 16th, 2019. Whereas Tuesday, March 12, 2019 marks the 107th anniversary of Girl Scouts of the United States, founded by Juliette Gordon Low in 1912 in Savannah, Georgia. And whereas through Girl Scouting, girls grow in courage, confidence, and character and learn to make the world a better place. And whereas throughout its long and distinguished history, Girl Scouts, the preeminent organization for girls, has inspired millions of girls and women with the highest ideals of character, conduct, and patriotism. And whereas Girl Scouting takes an active role in increasing the interest and skill levels of today's youth in math, science, and technology careers, and to fulfill our country's economic needs. And whereas through participation in Project Undercover, a council-wide community service project, every girl will learn that she can make a change for the better in her community. And whereas the Girl Scout cookie sale is the world's largest girl-led business, teaching financial literacy to girls of all ages. And whereas the Girl Scouts of Southeastern New England, which serves 12,000 girls in the Rhode Island area, will be celebrating 107 years of an American tradition with more than 2.6 million current Girl Scout members nationwide. Now, therefore, we, the Town Council of the Narragansett, proclaim the week of March 10th through 16th, 2019, as Girl Scout Week in the town of Narragansett, urge our citizens to support our Girl Scouts in their endeavors. Congratulations. Any mint ones? Any mint ones left over? I'm kidding. All right, thank you to the Girl Scouts and to their leaders. We have approval of minutes, the February 19th, 2019 regular meeting.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed, motion approved 5-0. Our next item for recognition, I'm going to call our superintendent and our athletic director up for recognition of sports excellence in Narragansett schools this year.
Well, thank you for having us this evening.
Welcome.
It's always a pleasure to be here with the Town Council. Let me introduce Matt Marr, who's our high school athletic director. So Matt is going to introduce a number of our winter athletes who were able to have some amazing success this winter. So we are fortunate to have groups of students that are hardworking, dedicated in and out of the classroom. And tonight you're going to see some examples of what our great Narragansett High School students can do. So Matt, if you could introduce.
I really appreciate you guys having us here tonight. This is my second year at Narragansett High School, and I'm continually impressed by not only our coaching staff, but our high-achieving student athletes. We're really, really proud of the effort they put forth on the turf, on the basketball court, on the volleyball court, on all of our playing surfaces. We've had very, very much success this year, starting out with girls soccer in the fall. And of course, those of you who have watched the news might have seen our boys basketball last night, lost on a buzzer beater to East Greenwich. We're hoping to make a huge run here in the Open Tournament, but tonight we want to honor some of our athletes who've already been done with their seasons. We had a terrific year in a first-year co-op swim on the boys' side with Prout School in Charahoe, and I'd like to bring up Coaches Joe and Coach Michaela up here to talk about our fantastic season we had in boys' swim.
I'm Coach Joe, in case you guys can guess.
And I'm Michaela, if you couldn't guess.
So we had a really successful year. Our boys were D3 champions overall. Our 4 Narragansett boys all competed and scored points, scoring about 40% of our points overall. In states, we were 3rd in the state out of 28 teams. Once again, our Narragansett boys scored 27%, I believe was the math I did, of our points overall for the team. For us, a small school or a small co-op, that's a very, very big deal. Compared to Hendricken and LaSalle, these schools that have a lot of depth. The fact that our boys, Teddy Evans, who isn't here, Aiden Carberry in the back, Avon Durfee, and Noah Morosky were able to put up such a great effort was a really, really big thing for us. It's a really, really big effort. They all showed up, and they did a very, very good job. Aiden Carberry was also all-state. Aiden Carberry and Avon Durfee were all division.
Congratulations.
And next up, we'd like to bring Coach Hummel up, and she's going to be along with Sarah Sweet, who is a 3-sport athlete and team captain of girls basketball, had a terrific season, and we'd like to bring them up, and Abby can highlight some of her accomplishments.
This is Sarah Sweet. I don't know if you've met her yet. She's a senior at Narragansett High School. She's a 3-sport athlete, but she's here today because of her accomplishments in basketball. Sarah just hit 1,000 points for her career for Narragansett High School. If you were ever able to see the video, it was something special. For most people, we had a 1,000-point scorer last year, a male. He knew it was about to happen. For Sarah, her coaching staff, the athletic director, and with her parents, we chose to hide it from her. So you'd see her, if you looked up the video online, scoring her 1,000-point and then running back on defense while everyone else around her was jumping on her, and she was pushing them off like, get back. So it's just something I'm really proud of as a coach. I've coached Sarah since middle school, and she's always been a great leader in the community. So hopefully she goes on next year, maybe to play volleyball in college, but it's been amazing watching her. So Sarah Sweet.
And I think Sarah was the only one in the entire gym who didn't know. If you go look at the video on our Instagram, every time she caught the ball, the crowd was like, and then she finally hit the shot. It was a great thing. So try and check out that video. We had some more athletes that couldn't be here tonight because of other conflicts, but we're looking forward to the boys basketball open tournament starting on Thursday. If anybody's around, we're at North Kingstown versus Barrington at 5:30 on Thursday night. But thank you again for having us. Really appreciate it.
Thank you. Thank you, and congratulations to all of those student athletes. Thank you. Next, we have the consent agenda. Is there any item that anyone would want removed from the consent agenda? All right, seeing none. Is there a motion to approve the consent agenda?
So moved.
Second.
Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Motion approved, 5-0. All right, new business, item number...
Matt, is there any way
Yes.
we can, I'm going to ask you again, any way we can do open forum at the beginning of the meeting, get that over with? Open forum?
If you want to make a motion to move.
I'd
go
like to
ahead.
move open forum. I make a motion to move open forum, beginning of the meeting
Second.
from the end of the meeting.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed?
No.
No. Motion fails 2-3. Item number 12 is a motion to adopt a resolution regarding career technical education program in Narragansett.
So moved.
Second.
This item comes from Jill Lawler, and I know the superintendent is also here to speak on it. So, Jill?
Yeah, we received an email that was a quite scary email to read from the perspective of the council, and I know the school board as well, and the residents of the town. And I asked that our superintendent come and explain to us his email, which was very thorough to us, and I think the town is going to be very interested to hear what he has to say.
Thank you. So about 2 weeks ago, the delegation from Warwick in the General Assembly, along with the delegation from Cherahoe, introduced a bill that would restrict career and technical education only to 6 districts within the state. What that would mean is that programs like our agri-science program, our plumbing program, our computer science program would be shut down at the end of this school year. The driver for that bill was really economic, and there are some factors that need to happen at the legislative and regulatory level in order to fix some of the issues that are in the space currently. So what we are requesting is the support of the council in opposing this bill that would shut down the agri-science program at Narragansett. It would shut down programs in North Kingstown, shut down programs in Pontigansett, in South Kingstown, and in Westerly. We had the pleasure of going and testifying against this bill last Wednesday. I could not have been more proud of our students, of our parents, of our teachers. There were about 50 students from Narragansett that went up to testify against it. We had numerous students write testimony that they submitted to the legislature. Pontigansett brought down about 100 students, and so the chambers were packed. On that same night, our Future Farmers of America, who you had already honored, were also honored by the Rhode Island legislature. And so we were very proud of everything they did. All of that being said, the bill is still active. There still is a possibility of this bill moving forward. And so your support would be quite meaningful in terms of opposing this bill and showing that the entire town is behind the agri-science program.
Great, thank you. Are there any questions for the superintendent?
Yeah, this bill comes up every now and then, doesn't it?
It does. We're more worried about it this year.
Yeah.
So it is introduced on and again, and understandably so, as that there are issues in the financing around career and tech education. Right. We are worried about it this year because this is the first time the bill included language to shut down any program that's not a part of a CTE center. And so while we have RIDE-approved programs, and they're high-quality programs, and we would, open them up to analysis against any other program in the state. This bill in particular was quite damaging, not just for the financial impact in terms of what it meant for resources for the district, but it would just shut off opportunities for our students in a way that we are strongly opposed to.
Agreed.
Great, thank you, Superintendent. All right, anyone, any further comments? All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Motion approved, 5-0. Item 13 is a motion to authorize the staff to issue a request for proposals for architectural engineering services related to the renovation of the Maury Lungens Memorial Library.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion. So I put this item on in light of the discussions that we've had on these issues in terms of the library. I think that there's been a lot of, obviously, different points of view about this, but when we look at what we need to do for the library and
Come on, one
When we
phone
look
in
at-
4 years, that's not bad.
when we look at what we need to do for the library, I think it's important for us to have a more modest approach. I think the concern that many taxpayers have expressed is the full $5.8 million borrowing, and then above and beyond from that, if we were to go forward with the Belmont building and the work at that building, we know that budgeted right now in the budget for that is $7 million over a 19-year to 20-year period. So this was discussed, we had discussed in executive session over the last 2 years, the alternative of this, but it really hadn't gone anywhere. So in light of where we are now, I think it's important for us to have a more modest approach, a more conservative approach, fix our library to make it ADA accessible, to fix our parking problem, and to make it focused on the things that we need to fix in terms of what we've heard from what's deficient with it. So with that said, if there's any conversation from the council.
I'm going to hold my comment for now.
All right, is there anyone from the public? Yes.
Excuse me, can I didn't get a chance to speak. Do you want to go right to the public, or?
Sure, if you know, you can go ahead. Go ahead.
Okay, sure, thanks. Sorry about that, Carlene. A few questions for Mr. Mannix. How many members of the Board of Trustees did you work with on this RFP?
This RFP is an RFP that had been put forward in the last couple of years that Jeff Cesarini, the former engineer, had put together. So he may have worked with some of them on it, but I did not.
And okay, so no members of the library staff that you're aware of.
Well, I think that they probably talked with him about it, but I don't know.
All right. 5,109 people voted for the library bond in 2016 to purchase real estate and build a new town library. So right in the text of the ballot says purchase real estate, build a new library. How many people voted to upgrade and renovate the existing library? I think that would be 0. What would the cost of these renovations be, and would they be reimbursed by OLS? The answer is no. Would the library have to close for a period of time during these renovations? Most likely, yes. So this RFP is being presented by and headed up by Matt Mannix. So that's someone with no background in library science, no background in education administration, no background in civic planning. Truly, it was done in the name of pure politics. Instead of having a council of 5 members working in collaboration with our constituents, we see this consolidation of power. What we're seeing is 3 people actively working against the very people that they were elected to serve. And at times, you referred to these people as the angry mob. They are not a mob. These are people participating in democracy, exercising their right to do so. They're residents and neighbors, but they are angry. So let's look at some of the wording from the RFP. In the introduction, the last sentence, it says, this work will be a precursor to and an integral part of a comprehensive building and renovation project. So is this about fixing the ADA compliance and some of the things that need to be fixed right now, or is it a precursor to a comprehensive building project? Remember, a comprehensive building project would be a multi-million-dollar project, and it's still no OLS reimbursement for that. And again, something that has received no votes to do as a concept. It's also interesting when you think of it that way. As I mentioned at the last meeting, in section 42 of the town charter, where it talks about the library, it speaks of the powers and duties of the library. The Board of Trustees shall take possession of the library and shall thereafter be the legal guardians and custodians of the library. They shall provide suitable rooms for the library and arrange for proper care of those rooms. So, a comprehensive renovation seems like that would fly in the face of the charter. And when you look a little further and you look into what exactly the town council can do, what's within their powers, section 2.1.7, powers of the town council. All legislative powers of the town council shall be vested in this council, except such powers as are or may be vested otherwise by the state and constitution, by this charter, and by laws enacted by the General Assembly. So, we are bound to this charter. This is a binding document, not a guideline for the town council to work from. And I did speak to the town solicitor, Mark Davis, this week, just to get some clarity on exactly what the town council can do and can't do with the library. So when it comes to things like renovating interior space, adding new rooms, that's something that the town council cannot do without permission of the library board. And just, so we can verify that. Mark, do you mind commenting on that?
The section of the charter you referred to, Jesse, mirrors that of Title 29 of the Rhode Island General Laws. And it reads verbatim as to the language you just cited. And it bestows on the trustees, the library trustees, the responsibility to maintain suitable rooms and arrange for the proper care of the library. And as we discussed, the town owns the library building, so I believe the town would be acting accordingly and proper to bring the building into compliance with general laws, ordinances. So anything on the exterior, I think, is well within the powers of the town. On the interior, as the language suggests, it's a little murkier, and this language is as vague as it is. It seems to convey to the trustees the broad powers to basically maintain, and the obligation to maintain the interior room of that building. So the layout, we can get into a discussion about carpeting and paint, but it does appear that the trustees have the obligations, the responsibilities, and the discretion to manage the interior of the library.
Okay, thank you. So, when we look at the bigger picture here, are we going to spend hundreds of thousands of dollars to get this building up to code and then stop short of what's laid out in this RFP, which is a bigger plan to renovate the interior? Why spend the money on this building when we already have a plan at the Belmont building? At some point, we have to ask, who is the town council accountable to? Because right now it seems like it's the Matt Mannix show. This town council used to be accountable to the public. It doesn't seem like that's the case right now. So, at some point, the three people that vote for this are going to have to answer the question of why they willingly and knowingly broke the town charter if it gets to that point. And that's something that doesn't seem like anyone here is going to hold you accountable to, but Superior Court would do that. And that's going to cost people more money. Just like every month when we sit here, it costs more money because we're delaying construction. The weekend before the January 22nd meeting, that was the meeting where 3 people in the council voted to put the Belmont building up for sale. I talked to Ricky Lima on the phone. He told me that he visited Tiverton and he loved the building and he could see that as an option in Narragansett. He spoke about that at the town council meeting on the 22nd. I told him I was for the Belmont building. I wasn't going to agree to a building somewhere else in town at this point, especially when we own the Belmont building. What we did agree on in that call was that we would not, neither of us wanted to put any money into the existing building. No money. We both agreed that was a complete waste of money. After I got off the call, I mentioned that to a few people that I speak to. I told my wife, I told Patrick, a few other people. Ricky does not want to put money into the current building. That's something that we're on the same page, we agree on. So I expect him to keep his word on that. January 22nd at the meeting, when he spoke of building on Clark Road, he said that was his plan B. That specifically was his plan B, not renovating the current building. So if that's your plan B, why would you vote for this? You also said you were very willing to work on an RFP and come back with that in 2 weeks. So I assume you're working on that. I know it probably takes longer than 2 weeks. You know, we'll see. Happy to see that next meeting. But again, if you're working on that, it doesn't make sense to vote on this. Yeah, I guess that's it. That's all I have to say on this. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, we got a few minutes. There is no violation of the charter. I just want to clarify that in terms of, and we're going to see the RFP things come back, the answers to the request for proposals. So there would obviously be we would be looking at those and vetting those. I think we're going to wait and we're going to have why don't we have the stenographer come up? If you want to come up, we'll have you be the only speaker before 8 o'clock. Would you like? Yeah. Yeah.
I don't think it's
the red light should be on. Is the red light on?
Oh, now it is. Okay, thank you. Those of you who were here at the last meeting or watched it live or on tape saw Mr. Mannix's rant. Let me turn the table and mimic Mr. Mannix now. People at home, I want you to see this. Look at the 3 candidates on the right side of the stage. These 3 are your one-issue candidates. And what is their issue? It is to kill the library project with their motions to sell the Belmont building, to move the open forum to the end of the meeting, to put forth ridiculous motions to move library functions to the senior center, to propose an RFP for an existing building, and to do anything else to stall the project until the time for spending the bond money runs out. These 3 are your one-issue candidates. And unlike Mr. Pugh and Mr. Murray, they have no facts to substantiate their candidacy's platform. They cannot defend their actions in regards to the library. We don't need an RFP for the present building. What we need is an RFP for the Belmont building. 10+ years of work went into determining that the existing building and parking were inadequate. I used to tell my friend that the best thing that could have happened would have been for the state to close us down because of all the inadequacies at the present site that have led us to be open only because of waivers from the state. Then you would see what Mr. Mannix calls the angry mob come out in even greater force. We are not an angry mob. We are the vocal majority. Maybe some of your silent minority would speak up if our library had been closed because of this council's inability to follow the wishes of the people. What are you trying to accomplish with this RFP to renovate the existing building? And how are you planning on paying for it when bond monies can't be used? No bond money, no reimbursement from OLAS, no private donations, possibly no grants from organizations like the Champlin Foundation. I think this attempt to put a Band-Aid on the current site will probably cost us more than the $33 worst-case scenario Mr. Murray has presented. Are you planning on closing the library while these renovations are taking place? We can't stay open with jackhammers pounding away at walls and floors. And why not an RFP for renovations at the Belmont building? Ms. Lawler, you continually state about the Belmont purchase that now that I have the facts, I think it is even a worse deal. You say you've come to that conclusion after meeting with Olis and the Bond Council, but you have never once stated what those so-called facts are. On the other hand, we have heard the library board present the actual facts of the library project many times.
Could you state your
they
name
are
and
well documented.
Could you state your name and address?
Carleen Town, Wood Hill Road.
Thank you. All right, so we're going to move into the public hearing, which is at 8 o'clock. The oldest reimbursement money is available for renovation of this library. We would apply for it the same that we would otherwise. And in terms of the bond, it is true. We heard it at the work session. And in terms of the borrowing, if we want to talk about the charter, section 6.2/8 of the charter says, no bonded indebtedness may be incurred pledging the credit of the town in excess of 1 1/2% of the current adopted budget in any one fiscal year, unless submitted to a vote of qualified voters. So we have discretionary borrowing of up to 1.5% each and every year if we wanted to borrow. So we're going to move to our public hearing, which is scheduled for 8 o'clock, and we'll come back to this item after the public hearing. Thank you. We have a continuation of a public hearing on the application from Michael Vickers to amend Chapter 731 of the Code of Ordinances of the Town of Narragansett, Rhode Island, entitled Zoning, adding a new section, Section 4.8.4, the Boone Street Special District. Is there a motion to resume the public hearing?
So moved.
Second.
Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
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 Mr. Kenyon is here. He's the attorney for the applicant. Welcome.
Thank you. Good evening. I'm John Kenyon, attorney for the applicant Michael Vickers. We're here tonight on a continued public hearing on the proposed zoning ordinance amendment for the Boone Street Special District. We filed the application in June of last year. It's been continued a couple times since then. We've met with the planning board several times since then. We've revised the proposed ordinance to take into account their suggestions along with their to address their concerns. We recently received a positive recommendation from the planning board. And tonight what we're hoping to do is briefly go through the different sections of the proposed ordinance, stop after each section and take any questions that the council members may have. Before we do that, though, I wanted to have Mr. Vickers come up and just briefly explain his history with Boone Street and the purpose behind the proposed ordinance. Mike?
Hi, I'm Mike Vickers.
Welcome. Mark.
Yeah, excuse me. Would you please state your full name and your address?
Michael Vickers, 9 Browning Street, Wakefield, Rhode Island.
And raise your right hand. Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you.
So a little history, I guess. I bought 134 Boone Street probably in 92-ish. It was the first home of my business that we started in across the street from Terminisi's. So I have a lot of emotional attachment, if you will, to Boone Street. We used to, before cell phones, we would get a call at Terminisi's and the girl would come over, the waitress, and say, you got a telephone call. She thought we were some kind of criminal organization, but we were actually doing engineering work on the first floor. So it was kind of a unique thing, and I have just like a lot of good stories about Boone Street. So my history is for Boone Street is I always thought it was a cool, great little spot, and I enjoyed it my entire life. I've always tried to acquire properties there. I've got 3 now, and I always wanted to make it more of a villagey zone, like that everybody had told me what it was like when I was actually there when Papa's was there, and all the different little things were going on in that street. When I first bought the house, it was predominantly, fishermen, a couple nurses, that rented in that area, and there was always people there. So I've enjoyed it over the years. A lot of the houses around there now, I think, are getting, you know, purchased, and they become 1-2 month homes. They get torn down, and I would like to kind of stop that for the properties that I have, and I would like them to become, you know, year-round properties with people that would add to the community village zone over there. So the new zone which we're proposing would incent people to upgrade their properties, hopefully make it a lot easier. Today it's a very difficult process to get approvals over there because we exist in a gray area. So today there's a bunch of residents, but they're non-conforming. So you can't expand them, you can't put another one on there or whatever it is. And I think the new zone change would encourage people to upgrade their properties. It would make more of a village zone over there, make everything more conforming.
Thanks, Mike. So the first section of the proposed ordinance defines the district, and it refers directly to the map that's found in your comprehensive plan, which, Mike, can you put that's in your comprehensive plan. So we didn't make up the district. It's the map's already there. The ordinance refers to the map. We haven't changed it at all. We haven't included new properties or deleted properties. There's 21 properties in the district, of which 5 are zoned R10 and 16 are zoned BB. The next map shows the zoning for those properties. The lighter shade properties are the R10, and the darker shade are the BB zones. The next section explains the purpose behind the ordinance, includes language that we took directly from the comprehensive plan. Before we go any further, I wanted to see, are there any questions on the map, the district itself? Okay. The next section is the table of use regulations, which is broken down into 2 columns for the BB zone and the R10 zone. We haven't changed anything for the R10 zone. We took the 140 uses that are currently allowed in the BB zone, and we reduced that down to 43 permitted uses. Essentially, we took out the larger, more intense commercial uses. We kept the smaller retail and office uses. So are there any questions on the use code table?
Mr. Kenyon, one question, clarification about the size of an inn that you're talking about. How many rooms?
An inn is defined as 30 or fewer rooms, but it's also, you're limited by the square footage of the lot. So in this area, I think the largest parcel is about 1.5 acres, Mike?
But that one's residential.
Then that's a residential one. So the largest commercial lot, I believe, is 3/4 of an acre.
So the lot for the inn would also have to contain ample parking for anyone there as well?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you.
Now, the next section provides that existing residential uses in the BB zone may continue as long as they are not enlarged or expanded. However, if a building is substantially renovated, then the first floor must be used for commercial uses. The property owner would have the same number of residential uses as currently existing, but they would have to go on the 2nd and 3rd floors. For new construction, again, you'd have to have commercial on the 1st floor, and you'd be limited to 1 dwelling unit per 5,000 square feet of the property. There'd be a maximum of 4 dwelling units per lot, and the dwelling units couldn't be more than 3 bedrooms. So while the density is increasing, we're trying to keep down the size of the dwelling units through limiting the number of bedrooms. As the council knows, the zoning there is commercial, and the town wants to promote the commercial uses. However, the residential uses are probably the more valuable uses there. So the problem we have is if you have a residential use, you don't want to lose that. So people aren't upgrading their property. And Mike, can you explain how we're hoping to incentivize them to get them to upgrade?
So if If you have 2 units today, like you'll see a lot of the lots over there have, say, 2 units. And there's not much you can do with your home. You can't put most of them are situated such that you can't put a commercial, building there or remodel it or get the commercial use out of it. So by allowing the landowner to keep the units, he'll be more incentive to upgrade the property,
while providing the commercial use on the first floor, which is what the town has set this up for. Any questions on that section of the ordinance? Now, the next section is the dimensional regulations, which are, again, broken down by zoning districts. The R10 zoning district did not change at all. The BB zoning district stayed the same for lot width, rear and side yard setbacks, and the height limitations. We reduced the lot size requirement from 20,000 square feet to 10,000 square feet. And the reason we did that is out of the 16 commercially zoned property, there's only 3 that currently meet the 20,000 square foot requirement. So we didn't want to make a lot of non-conforming lots right off the bat. We reduced the minimum front yard setback to 5 feet in order to permit the buildings to be closer to the sidewalk. And we did something a little bit different, but we have a minimum or a maximum front yard setback, which is 10 feet. So the comprehensive plan discusses having the buildings as close to the sidewalk as possible. And by doing that, we'd have the buildings up close to the sidewalk and then the parking, drainage, everything in the back of the buildings. And that way we'd maintain the streetscape on Boone Street. Any questions on the dimensional requirements? Now, we also increased the building coverage to 50%, which ties in the next table, which contains the FAR requirements. This table limits the total floor area ratio based on the lot size. There's no FAR requirements in the R10 zone. And the BB zone is broken down into commercial uses only and then mixed uses. The commercial uses have a lower FAR as they tend to be more intense than the mixed use, so those buildings would be smaller. And for those not familiar with the FAR, for an example, a lot 10,000 square feet in size containing mixed uses could be a total of 5,500 square feet of floor area. If you want to go 1 story, you're limited to 5,000 square feet because you have the building coverage requirement. If you go to 2 floors, you could have 2,500 square feet per floor. If you go to 3, then the building gets smaller. So the purpose behind the FAR requirement is to cut down the scale and massing of the buildings. The bigger you go, or the more square footage you get, the smaller the footprint of the building has to be. The town has something similar in Breakwater Village. In order to keep the massing and scale down on the buildings, you've implemented a FAR requirement in there. Any questions on the FAR requirement? And this ordinance is somewhat unique in that it requires site plan approval by the planning board, even if zoning relief is not required. So any redevelopment or renovations would require planning board review. The ordinance provides for development standards for the design of the buildings, the site and landscaping, so it does give the planning board some architectural review approval, which they don't have a lot of. The signage allowance for the commercial uses is reduced from 40 square feet to 15, and we've also prohibited moving message signs. We provided for minimum parking standards, and we also allow the planning board to review the site plan for shared parking, which is also in the comprehensive plan. So any questions from the council on the development standards? So I think that's all we have. Mike, did you have anything you wanted to add?
Again, it's just it's a passion I have. Semi-retired at this point in my life, and I enjoy I enjoy the properties that I put up on Boone Street. I just have one more piece across the street, but I'm just hoping that everybody else I could make it easier for everybody else to see that, to build something similar to what I did to, make it more of a village zone and, have a lot more year-round businesses on that street. And, that's what, my motivation is to do this.
Thank you.
Thanks.
So we'll be looking for, unless any council members want to comment, we'll look for any testimony from the public. David?
Dave Rudy, 125 Caswell. Could you go back
David,
to the...
Dave, excuse me.
Oh.
Would you please raise your right hand? Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you.
I wonder if you could go back to the overlay map. There we go. So I'd like to understand the property on the north side of Rodman, which, in my understanding, was the former site of the historic Presbyterian Church. Is that now part of this?
It is, but it's an R10.
Oh, it's an R10.
Yes,
okay. So can you go to the R10, the BB overlay? The next map. Okay. There we go. Okay. Okay. Thank you. I missed that. Thank you. No. The question was, what was the zoning on that parcel?
Wait, so the question, wait.
The question was at R10.
Oh, I'm sorry. Okay. Okay. Thank you. All right. Anyone else? Yes, Mr. Wojciechowski.
Hi, Stan. Please state your name and your address.
Stan Wojciechowski in Narragansett.
Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes.
Thank you.
I just love this. I've seen what he's done in the buildings. He's reviving Boone Street. And to tell you the truth right now is, as I drive through town, I just like to go up Boone Street. I'd rather do that than go over the speed bumps in so-called the downtown area. I go through Boone Streets and try to see what's coming there, and I think that's going to be a revival of our town right there. And I commend him, and I hope you allow him to build as much as we can to revitalize our community. And that looks like that's happening a lot better there than at the Gambane area, that's for sure. So let's support him and see what we can do to get more stores there, go more activity there, and beautiful buildings. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else? All right, seeing none, is there a motion from the council? Okay.
Yeah, I can support this. I can see what Vickers is trying to do here. He's trying to, it's a historic area. Most of the businesses, you got a business, they're mixed use anyways. And for instance, that restaurant, or any of those restaurants, because they're in a BB zone and special use permit, they have to, anytime they have work done or anything, it's a big hassle. They have to go through planning, zoning. So this would streamline that area, that unique area, through planning and zoning. And, they putting parking in the back, making it more of a frontage, Nantucket, smaller signs, we're not going to have big gaudy signs or anything. I think there was a lot of thought in this, and so I can support this. Thank you.
All right, thank you. So do we have if there's a motion from the council to, we could either close the public hearing or do you want to have some discussion about this? I mean, generally, I know that there's a ordinance change here, but we don't have the changed ordinance or a first reading, so we probably are going to have that come at a future meeting. In the memorandum from February 26th from the planning board kind of summarizes what the changes would be, and they were summarized for us here tonight. So is there a motion to either, if the people wanted to keep this open, or to close the public hearing?
I'd move to keep this going. I don't see, there's no reason not to. Doesn't seem to be a lot of objections against it, so I'd like to move to keep this moving forward.
So do you want to close the public hearing?
Sure.
All right, so it's a motion to close the public hearing. Is there a second?
Second.
All right, discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Aye. And then in terms of our discussion on this, we'll be looking for a specific, the more specific version of the ordinance at a future meeting. All right. Is there a motion to receive and place on file the recommendation from the planning board?
I move that motion.
Second.
Discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Motion approved 5-0. A motion to schedule a public hearing on an application for a transfer of a Class B victualling alcoholic beverage license from Whale Rock Restaurant Group LLC, doing business as Tortuga Restaurant, to Thai Best LLC, Assessor's Plat C, Lot 319, 21 Pier Marketplace, Narragansett, Rhode Island.
So moved.
Second.
This is scheduled for April 1st, 2019 at 8 p.m. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion approved 5-0. All right, so now we return to item number 13, which was the motion authorizing the staff to issue a request for proposals for architecture engineering services related to renovation of the Maury Lunges Memorial Library. Yes, Ms. Shepshelowitz.
Karen Shepshelowitz, Wanda Street, Narragansett. I've been on the Board of Trustees for 4 years, and I also taught at a competitive 4-year college in Pennsylvania. And I must say, Mr. Mannix, Miss Lawler, and Mr. Lima, if I had students that came to class and weren't prepared and hadn't done their homework, they would get a failing grade. I would expect my students, I was teaching nursing, to be thoroughly researched and prepared for what the assignment was. And I find it unacceptable, and I'm sorry, Mr. Town Solicitor, but I've heard you say several times that you weren't prepared to discuss this when things were on the agenda. And I also feel that Mr. Mannix acts like the jury, the judge and the jury. And this is supposed to be a democratic town where you're supposed to be the moderator. And I've heard you numerous times argue with people that came up to the mic. I don't think that's your role. And you might be a lawyer, but I'm also pretty well versed in Robert's Rules of Order, and I've been attending town council meetings for close to 50 years. And I've never seen anything like this. It's like you make the motion, Ms. Lawler seconds it, and Mr. Lima goes along. So that to me is, there's something wrong here, because you called the board one-brained. I would say you look in the mirror and do your own inventory about your own actions. And having family members write letters, that's their option. But Mr. Mannix, one of your brothers, approached me in the hallway one day before the election and told me not to trust my best friend. She wasn't who I thought she was. What business does he have telling me that?
Let's stick to criticizing me instead of
me, Matthew,
let's stick there.
Like you're trying to intimidate, coerce, and retaliate against us, and people are afraid of retaliation. And you get very dicey when it comes to people disagreeing with you. Yes, you do. And that's, if you go over and look at any of the YouTubes, there you are. And I don't believe you do your research on the things. And I asked Mr. Lima before he ran, what he felt about the library. And he said he has everything he needs at work. And he also raised his finger to me one day in the back of the room and told me, "Don't you dare try to get me off the building committee." That to me looks like intimidation. And are you going to accept this kind of a culture in our town? It's despicable, and it's despicable the way you treat the library supporters. I venture to say that maybe
Thank you, Karen.
Matunic, Metatuxet Yacht Club and the Bonnet Shores Beach Club are more your social club, whereas a lot of people do enjoy the library.
Thank you, Karen.
No, thank you.
Thank you. Yes, Lori.
Lori Kelly, 25 Wildfield Farm Road. I have a statement to read, but first I do want to correct you, Matt. At the January 14th workshop, Karen Meller was here, and for those of you who may not remember, she is the head of the OLIS for the state of Rhode Island. And at minute 43, hopefully this will play, she explains why a 9,000 square foot library will not get OLIS money.
Documented, yet a building that's perhaps 9,000 square feet, we would not sign on to reimbursing a project like that. Again, the needs, as Lori said, are different in every town in the state. So we leave it to the local board of trustees and the local library to determine how large a library they need. And we look for the evidence that supports their cause and their application for state reimbursement.
So that's one important clarification right there. It's disheartening that we go to the same workshops, we speak to the same people, and we come away with different information, and thank God it's on audio tape. Tonight, we once again see a clear violation of the will of the people. In November 2016, 67.9% of the people voted for a $5.8 million bond to purchase and renovate the Belmont building to make a new state-of-the-art facility for the people of Narragansett. We, the taxpayers of this town, selected this project as a worthy cause to spend our money on, to improve the town of Narragansett and provide free services to all who enter here. We do not need yet another study of our structurally deficient current building because we, the voters of Narragansett, reviewed the previous studies done by the library and agreed we needed a place where 13,853 people a month could comfortably access a building. We found the plan to move across the parking lot as the most fiscally responsible. These facts are known by the council. On January 10th, 2019, everyone up there received a letter explaining the 7 waivers, that is, failures of the town of Narragansett's library, and the explanation as to why they are waivers with the state of Rhode Island. Everyone read it, but for some reason, Matt, you think that it's just an ADA violation. It is a physical space. Number 20, the standard is physical space. If you repair the building with no physical space, we are still in violation of the state mandate for operating a sufficient library for the town. Also, the bond cannot be used to pay for the renovations. As I just proved, OLIS will not give us grant and aid on a 9,000 square foot building when we have a mandate for 24,000 square feet. The town council does not select the size or design of the library. And while that may be difficult for you, the state also pays 25% of the library operating budget and up to 50% of reimbursement for renovation. I don't think they do that for Parks and Rec or any other department.
Thank you.
You are very welcome.
Thank you. Yes, Rosemary.
Good evening. Rosemary Smith, 24 Castle Road. So today I read over the request for proposal for the architectural engineering services for the renovation of the existing library, and it did not give me the sense of the complete cost of the project. I hope that before the town council considers comparing the renovation of the current library with the cost of refurbishing the marketplace in Narragansett, that other factors would be considered for the year it would take or the time that it would take to complete the project. And so some of the factors that I was considering today that should be thought about before this is voted on: the cost of labor for packing up and unpacking the building's materials for storage, which would be 2 times under the renovation; renting storage units to put the materials into, or tractor trailers to store the materials in; the issue of whether to rent space for a temporary library for the time that the library is not open; consideration of the employment or unemployment of the current library staff while these renovations are taking place; and then the concern with dealing with consequences of displacing the 10,000 or more monthly patrons of the library to the surrounding libraries. So I was reflecting on the fact that the town beach has the most patrons for 3 months of the year. The second most visited municipal venue is the Narragansett Town Library at $10,000 to $15,000 per month, depending on the season. The closing of the beach venue during the summer would not be considered by the town council, as it would disrupt the flow of business for the town. My question is, what would be the economic impact of closing or displacing the library for the time of refurbishment? So I hope you'll take those into consideration before you do your voting tonight. This is very important. I know you know that. Thank you for your consideration.
Thank you. Dr. Alba.
Thank you, Council. Dr. Al Alba, 24 Eagles Nest Terrace, Narragansett, Rhode Island. I'm trying to understand the rationale of the 3 town council members who voted to sell the library. And now there is a motion to retrofit the old library. I am assuming the 3 town council members felt by putting the building up for sale, it will save taxpayer dollars. In reflection of the facts, it appears to me putting the building up for sale was a result of the 3 town council members acting overzealously. Ironically, if the new library is not built at the Belmont location we now own, it may impact Narragansett residents adversely. Let's review the math. We will lose the approved bond money and OLS earmarked money. And if the town of Narragansett cannot find a buyer for the Belmont location in the immediate future, at the cost the town paid for it, the taxpayers could lose significantly more money. We all know the former Belmont building was unrentable for many years, based on its designated use. In addition, money obtained by donors may also be lost. In addition, the 3 town council members who voted to sell the Belmont building did so without a viable alternative and without consultation with the library board. I know there have been many suggestions by the 3 town council members who voted to sell the recently acquired building with respect to alternative suggestions instead of constructing a new state-of-the-art library. President Mannix suggests we retrofit the old building. Ms. DeLima proposed building a new facility at Clark Road and have a park-like setting near the library. Ms. Lawler suggested moving some of the library services to the community center, which is not allowed under our charter. It is apparent that 3 town council members who do not like the Belmont location do not have a clear vision for an alternative plan as to what is best for the town of Narragansett's new library. However, the library board, who has been working on the new library project for 10 years, under support of the prior town councils, and are all in agreement to the best location for the new library, as are Mr. Pugh and Mr. Murray. The projected tax burden on the homeowner would be a nominal amount, while the return on the investment would be significant. The ability to retrofit the old library into a state-of-the-art library was previously reviewed by the library board, and it was determined not feasible. So I am truly perplexed why this is even being brought up for a request for proposal. I therefore strongly urge the council not to approve the RFP to retrofit the old library, as this option was not supported by the library board or past town councils. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Stanley.
Stan Wojciechowski, Narragansett. I want to commend everyone here to, that would want to. Let's find out the data. Let's do our homework, and the homework is part of the homework is getting an RFP, getting a real number. And the gal that said we got to have one for Belmont, I kind of like that idea too. I'd like to see the difference in the costs of one versus the other. And while you're getting the RFP, you're probably going to stumble on design problems or stuff that can't be done, additions that can't be done, or whatever. But getting data, getting firm data that we can go over, even at this late time, I think is the necessary homework to pay attention to costs. And it looks like only a 30-day issue. I didn't think it's a 6-month problem, so we're going to wait 30 days. I don't think that's going to kill anybody or anything. So let's get the data and do our homework. Appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? All right, any other commentary from the council? Oh, yes, sir.
Good evening. Philip Cody, 109 Westmoreland Street, Narragansett. I'd just like to address or discuss a few attributes of a civilized society that seem to make things work best for everyone. The first is democracy. In November of 2016, 2/3 of the voters of the town of Narragansett clearly expressed their desire when they voted for a $5.8 million bond for a new library in the Belmont building. The bond council apparently has been quite clear that the bond is to be used for the Belmont building, period. This project has been stalled by 3 of you, 2 of whom attended a ribbon cutting as ceremony for the new Belmont building as a library. One of you went there appropriately stated as a elected official. The other of you was not an elected official, but had stated in front of several voting voting get-togethers to meet the council members that you were in support of the library. You were pandering for votes.
Keep your comments to me, please.
Okay, happily. It shouldn't be a surprise to the town council or to you, Mr. Mannix, that your constituency is legitimately upset by your failure to follow through on our wishes. We are not an angry mob. We are angry, but we are law-abiding citizens, most of us library patrons, most of us with Medicare cards, got mine last week. The other issue I'd like to speak about is leadership. In my capacity as a naval officer, for years, I commanded hundreds of young men and women. In my capacity as an orthopedic surgeon who ran a small business, I had 50 employees. What became quite clear along the way is that there is a huge difference between a leader and a boss. A boss usurps authority by jumping into the middle seat at town council meetings. Respect has to be earned.
Thank you. All right, Patrick.
Okay, I'm up. Again. Where do we begin? Matt, I still have the same question I had 2 weeks ago. Why did you vote for the $5.8 million bond if this was the final plan? Was this always the plan? Well, I'm asking you a question. I think you owe these people an explanation.
I've said it. I've said it, I don't know how many times that I've discussed this issue publicly, privately, where I've said if it wasn't a good deal, that I was in support of the renovation of the existing site. I've said that I went in the spring of 2017 to the library to express my concerns about the intransigence of Gilbane during the negotiations. It was hard to reveal some of that because we were in executive session. As you know, we're supposed to keep what's in executive session in executive session. So the mystery as to why that year I continued to express my concerns about the project, October of 17, we all voted on it, right? Yep. You voted against it. You had concerns about it at the time. And then you fast forward, I expressed throughout the campaign my concerns about the deal, stated them. So I was open to the Belmont process, but I did not want to do it at any cost. And I've expressed the concerns about the CAM fees. I've expressed the concerns about the original appraisals. I've expressed the concerns about the parking. I can, if anyone one-on-one wants to have that conversation with me, I'm open to it. But that I've said that many times. So no, it was not my. Right. It was not. So.
Well, you also said that if we owned the land at Belmont, that you would be on board with it, but you weren't expecting Gilbane to give us the land.
Do you remember the original version of this, which was a tenancy arrangement?
Yeah, it was. Well,
I don't know if you did because it was before you were first elected.
Yeah,
actually.
but you said at some point in 2017 that you were on board. If we
I didn't say I was on board in that way. But why don't you make your statement, Patrick?
Okay.
I don't know if this is.
All right, well, I think these folks need an explanation.
I think I've given it. Well, there was an extensive discussion.
I think you used the
bond. It's not a mystery.
Well, I think you used the bond to misrepresent the and have your own rhetoric and your own spin for the last few years, and you've been taking the whole town for a ride, basically. So, all right. Now, we got $400,000 for the community center. Let's say we got another $400,000 to refit this library and put lipstick on the building. How are we paying for this? Is this going to be a bond, Matt, or how are we going to pay for this?
We're going to.
I just wanted to say something. I know that I walked over from my house. I don't know if I'm late or what.
After Patrick speaks, you can, right? Patrick, why don't you go ahead?
How are we going?
I think we'll determine the funding, but
well, I think people need to know. I've done detailed plans for the last 2.5 years. I mean, I think we need to know some kind of, where the money. Are we going to bond it? Are we going to just take it out of our reserve, which we don't have any because we own a $2.8 million building?
Does everyone understand that the bond money we actually have to pay interest on?
Yes.
Do people understand? You keep saying, no, I don't think but you don't present it that way. What happens is you act like we hear this voice of you're losing the bond money. The bond money, we have to borrow and pay interest on. You generally don't want to borrow. You don't want to borrow big amounts of money. So if we're going to borrow in this case, I would want it to be minimal. That's what the taxpayers expect from us. It's the bond is going to run out. It's not we don't go in a room and the bond money's sitting there. And that's how it's presented. And the second thing is the authorization to borrow, the money to authorize to borrow, that in 2016, that's an authorization to borrow. It's not a mandate to spend.
I'd just like to comment. Do you mind if I comment on that?
No, go ahead.
When a bond, based on the Bond Act and the way that works, when a bond is on a ballot to be voted on, it's very specifically worded, we authorize the town council to issue this bond. You can't use the word mandate. It has to be authorized. That's the way it is always worded. That historically, that's how it's done. So when you say that, you're correct. It doesn't say mandate because it's not how it's done. So that could never be the case.
Jesse, it's technically an authorization to borrow because other factors come into play in town decisions. We've had this discussion with the school athletic field, for example, where there was a lot of discussion if certain grant money didn't come in, would we reduce that amount from 1.8? those discussions take place, you are not mandated to borrow that amount. Again, that's another piece of shading of the truth that's been going on by advocates for the Belmont deal, that we have to follow the mandate to borrow a full $5.8 million. And I just want to say we don't. Right.
All right. So we got 400 for the community center. Let's just use some round numbers. 400 for the library refit. So that's 800,000.
400 pack already in the budget. So it's
okay.
Not, it's not
all right. So we go so we need an additional 400.
No, it's already in the budget. It was already in the budget.
For the library?
No, it's for the community center.
Okay. So,
but remember, too, that you can, not from this bond, but remember the bond council did give us a note. I saw some on social media, but it seemed to exclude one paragraph. Mike, can you put that up, that bond information up? That the bond attorney has let us know that we can, without going out for referendum, borrow up to $700,000 tax exempt. So maybe that's the bond that Matt is referring to, different from the bond, the 5.8, but something that the bond council said is something that we can do.
Right, but right now, we have, I wish Laura Kenyon was here, but right now, we're at 10% reserve. We're going to borrow another 400, and then we got 400 in the budget for, is that this year's budget, that 400? Okay. All right, that's about $35. Anyway, so basically, we're going to float a bond for the library section, to refit the library. Is that what we're going to do?
Patrick, why don't you make your statement at this point? I don't have, we can spend the money or we can borrow it. Those would be the options.
Okay, so why don't we, all right, since we don't have these answers, why don't we continue this and have a workshop? We've had countless workshops.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
All right. Would you be on board with the workshop?
Patrick, make your statement, okay? I'm not playing the gotcha game here, okay?
It isn't a gotcha game. I mean,
it is. It's the Matt Mannix show, putting my picture up on a dollar bill a month ago.
Well, that's not up there now.
You play. I mean,
that's not up there now.
This is it's personal attack after personal attack. So why don't you just make your statement?
It was a $100 bill. You're up there with Ben Franklin, for God's sake.
Just make your statement. And then you're laughing in the laughter.
Well, I'll tell you, you need a sense of humor to be up here, let me tell you.
I'd have it.
Matt, and your zeal to save taxpayer money. All right, we had an opportunity to take that bond and reduce that bond a little bit, to kind of negotiate with you so we can refit that Belmont building, but you didn't want to hear it. But these people aren't going away. They're like a dog with a bone, whether you call them a mob or just, PO'd constituents, whatever you want to call them. But they're not going away. They want this library. And come 2020, whatever happens during the election, I think in the long run, you're going to cost us more money than that $5.8 million. I think upwards or over of $1 million you're going to spend additional to what you think you're going to save, but what you're doing now. So again, in your zeal to save taxpayer money, at the end, you're going to end up costing the town more money down the road. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Oh, sir. Yeah.
I was watching on TV, so I just had to walk over, but I should check in, I guess. Oh.
Just need your name and address.
My name's Robert Combs. I live on Robinson Street, and I know most of you guys. And I just want to know, has anyone considered the peer school as an option? Because it's half empty, it has handicap access, has children's bathrooms, has an auditorium, has plenty of land, and it'd be a perfect location for a library. It's got plenty of space, plenty of parking, and it's half empty. Move the kids over there. We wouldn't have to do anything except move some books. So all the computers are set up, sprinkler systems, it's got everything. And here we are, we're fighting about, this is getting ridiculous. It's going on and on and on and on. I mean, we own the building, we own the land, we own everything. We have a tenant, the package store. We got a building in the Narragansett Pier who is which is a tremendous piece of property. I mean, if Gilbane's got remorse, let him buy it back. I mean, this summer, we take everything out of the library, move it up into the Pierre School, and relocate the kids over to South Pierre Road. I mean, what could be better? That's it.
Thank you.
Yep.
My name is Susan Amoruso, West Bay Drive, 111 West Bay Drive, and I can't believe I'm up here again. I'm going to come up at the end, but on this issue, okay, I kind of find it insulting that you think that people who went and voted on a bond issue didn't realize that when you borrow money, you pay interest. I can't think of anybody who voted for that. I mean, I can't believe these things. I mean, it's so basic. I can't believe that you're saying these things, and I am directing it to you because you're talking over people. I can't believe what is going on. It is mind-boggling. And for a library that we all want, that everyone who showed up and voted that day, you know, the people who didn't, and there are people who voted no, I don't diminish them, but they were in the minority. And we run our government on the majority rules. And people are just aghast that this is happening. So the people who went and voted said, okay, I want to spend the money. I know my taxes might go up, but I want a library. They didn't vote for fixing up the little tiny thing that is like, you know, it's just, this shouldn't be happening. And I find it insulting that I have emailed all 5 of the council members, and I have failed to receive an acknowledgement that you've received my emails from 3 people. So Patrick and Jesse, I appreciate nothing lengthy, but at least say, yes, I got your email, I agree with it, I don't agree with it. But I write to my congressmen, I write to my senators. When I lived in Jamestown, I always got the courtesy of a reply, and that I just can't understand why that the 3 of you can't even say, thank you for your input. Just because it is a democracy and you are supposed to hear from interested citizens. We should all be interested. So I don't know why you don't answer, but I think that's just, it's basically rude. So I'm sorry to say it, but I'm disappointed. And I think if I take the time to tell you how I feel in an email, because maybe I can't come here, you deserve, because you are an elected official, to say, I agree, I disagree, or just, I got your message. It's just polite. So, but I did know when I voted for that bond issue that it was going to have interest involved, because it's kind of like a loan. So just going by it.
Thank you.
Matt. This guy.
Hi, my name's Paul Selwyn, and I live here in Narragansett. The library is a library. I have one question. Did you find a list? Did you find an agent to list it yet, or is it going up for sale, the Belmont building?
We're doing all that in executive session, so we're meeting in executive session regarding that.
I really would like to just revisit that Vickers thing for 1 second, if you don't mind. Because I heard the name Breakwater Village.
Right now, yeah, we would have to do it at public comment, because this is only comments on the RFP.
Well, I have one comment. In Breakwater Village, you're only allowed to build on 5,000 square feet, 18 feet high. And all of a sudden, I think I got from listening to that you're going to be able to build 35 square foot.
Your comment needs to come during the hearing or when we vote on the ordinance. It's out of order regarding the library issue.
Right. Yeah. This is only for the library right now?
Right now.
I thought it was open forum.
No.
Oh, it isn't?
No.
Oh, all right.
No.
I could have sworn at the end it said open forum.
Thank you.
On this thing. All right.
Thank you.
I keep that in mind, 18 down there, 35 here on the same 5,000 square foot lot.
Yeah, Matt.
Yes.
I got one more comment, and in 2017, 18, you were right. You kept stating that this was a disaster. Going down to Gilbane was a disaster, and we're going down the wrong road. And you know what? We finally agree on something under your administration. This whole library question has turned into a disaster.
All right, is there anyone else? Any other comments?
Naomi McDonald, 30 Kingstown Road. I just want to ask a question. When was this received? What's the date that this was?
February 21st.
Okay. All right, that's all. Just thank you.
All right, thank you. All right, if there's no other comments, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye, all opposed?
Nope.
Abstain.
Motion approved 3-1. Our next item is item number 14, a motion to direct the town manager to hire a mediation service to work with the town council and library board of trustees in an effort to settle disagreement over the library project.
All right. I'd like to move that motion.
Is there a second?
Second.
All right, this item comes from Jesse and Patrick. Go ahead.
I'll talk about it first or me? Go ahead. Yeah, so I think it's very apparent that this would be helpful in this situation at this point. We have unfortunately gotten to the point where I think this is needed. After the election, Matt, you publicly said this was going to be a difficult but not impossible project, which was, I actually felt good about that. I felt like we could work on something, do a little back and forth, and move forward with it. That it has proven to be impossible, actually. You also stated that you were looking for compromise multiple times through the process, and that just it doesn't seem like that was true. When we look back historically over the last few months, we have Patrick and I and the library board in cases have offered to and agreed to take the liquor store out of the equation, which I think we all agree that was prudent, that made sense, it would generate income, or we could sell it. You could lease it or sell it, but that was, an initial olive branch, and we agreed with it, so I think that was great. During meetings, Patrick threw out the idea of covering the CAM fees with fundraising. I don't think the Board of Trustees was happy with that, but it was offered, and it was not, there was no discussion to be had. You weren't open to discussing it. Also lowering the amount of the bond. On tape, we could see that Patrick offered to lower it to I think $4 million at one point, and you said, either didn't respond or you said the ship has sailed. I can't remember exactly the comment there, but you were not open to that. Last meeting, we wanted to do a special election. Let's get complete clarity on what the people want. Even though we had the 67.9%, let's make it more clear. Let's respect this, silent segment of the population and let them vote again and be very clear on it. We're not open to that. So we have offered compromise in multiple cases throughout this process in good faith. And, there's no movement from this side. And it's unfortunate that I have to even say this side because it shouldn't be this split. I mean, the last vote, two members of the council didn't even talk about it. They did not even discuss the motion because we know that you three are not open to working in any way to do this, to do what's best for the people in town. So we get to the point now where we would like to offer and discuss mediation with this council, with the Library Board of Trustees, to talk about this issue. I talked to Mark Davis. He said, we might be looking at maybe $1,500 a session. I'm not going to hold you to that exactly. That was just and it's not with Mark, but, but he said, does that sound about right, 1,500 per session?
I think I said it certainly wouldn't be me or my firm, but typically in a mediation setting, typical would be 1,500 per side, so it could be as much as 3,000
Okay.
a day.
So I'm not sure how many sessions it will take. We could cap it. We could do 2 or 3 sessions. We could definitely keep this under $10,000. Maybe it's $6,000. But I mean, there's really no other option. So if you would like to work on this, open your mind to the possibilities. That's something that, you know, we'd like to talk about now and see what you think.
Thank you. Anyone from the council?
When guys ain't got no comment, come on, somebody say something, for God's sake. Somebody say something. Defend what you guys are doing. Say something. Please.
Patrick, quite simply, on January 22nd, we voted to sell the building, the IGA building. The only reason this is here is that you don't like the vote, period. I'm sorry you don't like the vote. It was a 3-2 vote. It's not fun to be on losing sides of votes. I've been there. But we voted. There's no need for this. What this is asking us to do is to go back and look at an issue that we've already voted on. You just don't like the vote. Are we going to start going back to all the other items that you don't like? We voted. There's no reason to have this.
Well, that's the question I had. One of the previous speakers said, Jill, that you found out more facts that made this deal even worse than what that was proposed, you know, before the election, or you found out more information. Can you clarify on that?
Patrick, I did. When we had the workshop with the library board, I went through and I spoke about the information we found out when we met with OLIS and met with the bond council. This isn't a question and answer period with the audience members. We have a motion in front of us and like us either talk about it or vote on it.
I don't remember what. I'm just curious of what information that you found out that made this a worse deal.
So Patrick, the question you're asking has nothing to do with the motion in front of us. I'd like to ask us stay with the agenda and stay with the motion.
Okay. All right. Well.
When?
Yeah. Let's hear from the audience. I'll wrap it up.
I just want to try to clarify something. We know there's initiatives.
Oh, Nate, state your name and address.
Windhames, 30 Wood Avenue, Narragansett, Rhode Island.
Thank you.
For the last 65 years.
Taurus.
And I'm sorry my wife can't come up and speak for me tonight. But you know there's voter initiatives in. Those voter initiatives are not going to go away. They're in the works. You can't stop it. Nobody can stop it. If we have to take that all the way to November 2020, it's going to go all the way to November 2020. A sensible way right now to try to settle this is either buy a special election or go to arbitration. That's the only way. I'm not going away. So I will ride those initiatives all the way to November 2020 if I have to. Okay? So let's save the town some money. Let's move this forward and either have the election, have the mediation, and settle it. Thank you.
Thank you. Richard.
Richard Van Gamish, 55 Osceola. Yeah, obviously I'm going to speak for what I've been talking about the last couple of months. We have reached an impasse. And if it weren't obvious, it is definitely obvious tonight. And this happens to people of goodwill. And we've got to all consider ourselves people of goodwill. I think this is something that we have to assume. The mediator must know the past, and we'll find out about it, but is not hampered by the past like all of us are. We've all felt negative about various things here. Now, the mediator starts with no baggage of the past. If any two groups needed that, this town council and the library group, getting rid of all the baggage of the past would be a magnificent thing again. Now, this is not an arbitrator who might choose a path that one side might find unlivable, or both sides might find unlivable. This is an attempt to get people of goodwill together. Perhaps at the beginning, you'll talk to one group and then the other, and then transfer information back and forth. But this is a mediation. I would end with two songs from the Beatles. This comes because I was born 2 days before John Lennon. That great song, We Can Work It Out, and the most important song ever written, You Don't Always Get What You Want.
All right.
Thank you.
All right. Get him, Richard.
Carleen Town, Wood Hill Road. I know you ruled out having an election, and this is probably one of our last chances to get any movement on this. But before voting on this motion tonight, I would like to ask, I'd like Mr. Mannix, Ms. Lawler, and Ms. Lima to answer some questions. I think the mediator and other members of this audience would like answers too. First of all, Mr. Mannix, at the last town council meeting, Mr. Pugh asked you directly, have you or anyone you know spoken to any person or business at any time about purchasing the Belmont building? You replied that you had not, but you never answered the second part of the question as to whether or not anyone you knew had, even after Mr. Pugh pressed you for an answer. You definitely dodged answering that question. Have you ever heard the expression lie of omission? A lie of omission is a lie in which someone deliberately withholds pertinent details about something in order to skew someone else's idea of the truth or engender a misconception. I'd like an answer to the second part of Mr. Pugh's question from you tonight. Secondly, I'd like to ask Ms. Lawler why she purposely, or for lack of doing her homework, put forth misinformation at the last town council meeting. If you were here or watched the exchange between Mr. Pugh and Ms. Lawler, you heard Ms. Lawler state that the bond says to renovate or to purchase. That is untrue. The bond states that the monies are for the acquisition and renovation of real estate. Even Mr. Mannix tried to correct her on that issue, if you watched the tape. She hinted that the bond money could be used for the renovations on the existing library. Mr. Pugh tried to explain to her that that was impossible, but she just brushed his comments aside. Ms. Lawler, you need to do your homework before you put false information out to the public. And I think you owe Mr. Pugh and the audience an apology. Mr. Lima, every time you open mouth, you talk all around a subject without having anything substantive to say. I guess that is the true definition of a politician. You say you are for the best library the town of Narragansett can afford. The library board has shown you proof that the Belmont building is the most cost-effective plan. You haven't offered any other plan or figures to refute what the board has presented. The people of Narragansett were fully aware of the cost of the $5.8 million bond and were willing to spend it on the library. How many times do you have to be told that the town is only on the hook for $5.8 million? $33 per $400,000 valued home, as Mr. Murray has shown us over and over again, is the worst case scenario. That cost would be even less if you factor in reimbursement from OLIS, private donations, and the offset. I haven't had 3 minutes yet.
Yes, it's 3:20. Thank you.
Mr. DeLuca, could you please put the letter up from the bond attorney again? I want to be able to show the town where it clearly states that bond money can be used, different bond money, be it, but bond money can be used, $700,000 to renovate. I want everyone to see that paragraph because it's a very important paragraph. Thank you, right at the top.
But not the bond money we voted
Let's keep some order.
So correspondence from bond counsel. However, I should know that there is, in any interest in renovating the current library site, you can issue a tax-exempt bond without referendum in the amount of approximately $700,000 in any fiscal year for renovations of the existing library, provision to charter. So that's...
But can we issue it this year?
We can.
When we're sitting on 10% reserve and it's sitting on a $2.8 million building without a plan? That's a question for Laura Kenyon. I wish she was here.
But it's two different things, Patrick.
No, it isn't two different things.
Hang on one second.
We do have a plan.
We do have a plan.
Reserve is a reserve.
However, this information was put out, when this letter was put out in social media to your group, this paragraph was not included. So I want to make sure everybody knows that there was a way, a different bond, but there was a way to renovate the building with existing funds.
I've never seen that. That's the first time I've seen it.
This isn't a letter, Patrick. Mike, can you go to the front part of the letter where it said to the town council and the date that the bond, there it is. So Mark Davis sent this out to us. He forwarded from David Ferrara. As a matter of fact, I do remember the beginning of this paragraph from Mark. Mark, correct me if I'm incorrect. It was you were asked by, I believe, by one or two members of the council?
Yep.
That's correct. A couple of town council members asked me, and of course it's a bond,
It was you. So
it's a
this is
bond
yours.
matter, and I asked bond counsel and forwarded the information.
Thank you.
I'd like to just add a little info, background and detail to how that works. In any budget year, the town council can issue 1.5% of its annual budget as a bond. They could do that on their own without getting voter approval. That has existed. That's not new. It's just something that I guess is being brought up now. There would be interest on that as well. So I guess if the voters vote for a bond, that's not good enough. But if these three want to issue their own bond, then it's okay.
All right, is any other commentary? Oh, yes, yep.
I am actually reading this for Dr. Albert, who had to leave.
Just give your name and address and then who you're reading on behalf of, please.
Naomi McDonald, 30 Kingstown Road, and I'm reading it on behalf of Dr. Albert Alba.
Oh, because he left. Okay.
Yes, he had to leave. There are many people who feel disenfranchised as a result of the recently purchased building being put up for sale and the failure for a revote for or against the new library building. The library board spent nearly 10 years of time, energy, and work to find a location and a plan for the new library. I hope all the council members recognize that it is human nature for any of us to feel hurt if you invested so much time on a task and it was all taken away from you. I question why 3 town council elected officials who were appointed to uphold the will of the people failed to act accordingly to the will of the people, according to. In addition, after hearing testimony for over 2 hours from the residents of Narragansett and from hearing testimony from those involved in planning the library, I ask what made 3 town council members circumvent the plan of the library board who were entrusted based upon their expertise to determine a location and development for the new library. We all have our unique levels of expertise. Therefore, it would be foolhardy for any of us to say we know more in the area of an operation of a library than those who have been trained in library science and who have worked in the library for many years. There is a well-known quote echoed by former political leaders and still holds true, and that is, united we stand, divided we fall. And our great leader, Abraham Lincoln, once stated, a house divided cannot stand. I feel if we do not work together to come together with a mutually convenient solution, we all lose, and it can cost us money, litigation fees, and delays. I therefore urge all concerned parties, including the library board, to sit down with the help of an experienced mediator and come up with a game plan that will make our town council team a winning team. I hope the town council and the library board can come up with a strategy so that we can plan a state-of-the-art library that will meet the needs of all its residents. Mediation is often used in business and in contract negotiations. To conclude, I strongly recommend that the town council work together with the newly appointed town manager, the library board, and with a professional, non-partial mediator so we can collaboratively move forward to building a state-of-the-art library. I would like to commend Councilman Murray and Poe for offering multiple solutions to resolve the differences on this important issue. I felt the idea for a revote was very good, and I feel working with a mediator can be effective to bring all parties together. If the 3 town council members strongly feel their beliefs are justified, let an independent, non-partial mediator determine the validity of everyone's position. Let it not be known that we have leaders in the Narragansett Town Council that are unwilling to hear the voices of their constituents, nor willing to discuss their differences in good faith. Thank you, Dr. Albert Elba.
Thank you. Yes.
Nancy Nuccio, 8 Vanderbilt Drive. You know, I've come to all the town council meetings regarding this library issue of late, and at every turn, I've been disappointed. And I just want you all to know, and I want everybody out there watching, that I have always functioned with a mantra that, that it's something like this: when you tell me it can't be done, I'm not deterred. And I just want, however this vote goes, and I don't expect it to go the way that I would like to see it go, this isn't over. It's not over.
Thank you. Any other comments?
Just one quick comment on this. I do want to just make sure it's totally clear that this would be very specifically mediation and not arbitration, because Richard brought that point up, and he's right. With arbitration, you would have a ruling at the end that is a binding ruling, and I wouldn't want to get into that situation. It wouldn't be fair to either side here. So it would be mediation, which is much closer to like counseling. We could all lie down on couches in a room together. And we, you talk through it and hopefully come to an understanding, but it's not a binding arbitrator where there's a ruling. So that's not it, it's mediation.
Well,
go ahead.
So, Rich, Jill, what do you think? This is an out? This is last call for democracy? This is a way to...
Patrick, I've already answered that. We voted on the 22nd.
All right, Richard, what do you think? Last call for democracy?
Patrick, I have no problem sitting down with anybody. So
Okay.
I don't need anybody to tell me how I'm going to run a meeting, run my business, or run what will be discussed at a table, okay? I can sit down with anybody.
Okay.
I'm a pretty reasonable guy.
So you're
okay?
on board with a mediator?
No.
Okay.
I hope everyone at home heard the mocking laughter from the crowd, from the angry mob, Because what I want to talk about, actually, which I'm going to talk about something that happened when I first came on the council, okay? When I first came on the council, we were confronted. I sat in those chairs from February of 2012 till November of 2012. Never spoke once at a meeting, listened, tried to absorb what was going on. Ran, there was a primary, the general election, wanted to educate myself on the issues. There were some controversial issues. I could have stepped up and jumped on certain popular waves. At the time, there was a firing of a town manager. His name was Grady Miller. There was a lot of anger about that and popular support against his firing. And I remember distinctly, it was Memorial Day time period, 2012. Fast forward, we had to select a new town manager, so we inherited that problem, that void, as a council. And one thing I'll say I'm proud of since then is that we've been very successful in getting town managers, and we haven't played the traditional parlor game in Narragansett of fighting over the town manager. So that, with Pam Nolan and Jim Manning, we did have 2 wonderful town managers since then. But that time in 2013, I was brand new to the council, and we were down to two candidates. And Dean Hoxie was one of them, and I was a strong supporter of Dean Hoxie based on the interviews and based on his qualifications, and I thought he was far and above the better candidate. The other candidate didn't stay in the conversation, so there was a discussion about appointing an interim town manager. And I was very much against that, and me and another council member were the dissenting votes on that. And the 3 people on the council wanted to push through it, putting through an interim town manager. There was a lot of popular support for Dean Hoxie to be the town manager. A lot of people felt Grady Miller got a raw deal, but that doesn't mean you should give Dean Hoxie one. I was very passionate about my position. I feel that I was right, and I think we still would have Dean Hoxie as our town manager at this time. What I didn't do after February of 2013 is continue to bring motions on the same topic and to reconsider the idea and to find another way to do the town manager discussion. I moved on. I was outvoted. It was probably the only time I lost sleep because I was brand new as a council member on an issue. It was a very controversial one. But that is not what we've seen on this issue. We've not seen people willing to have that move forward. I did it. I have the track record on it. I have the track record on that of moving forward from a difficult vote and working with a council at the time that was a majority of endorsed Democrats. I was the only independent on the council at the time. But I worked together on many other issues with them. So I have that track record, so I just want to say that, and that's why I point out what I've seen is poison on this issue. You need to at some point say, we're moving forward on the issue. I did it, and I had a lot more passion for that than I heard in the than I've heard on the town right now on this issue. So,
Matt, there's a big difference between a 3-2 vote for a town manager and over 5,000 people voting for a bond to put a library in the pit. But I think
that's your opinion.
Okay.
Thank you for your opinion.
Well, I think we can come together on this. I think we can get Dean Hoxie to be the mediator.
He's a little busy right now.
Well, he's a local. I think he'd be on board with that. So,
all right. If there's no more discussion,
Dean Hoxie.
All in favor?
I move.
All in favor?
Dean Hoxie.
All in favor?
Got one more back here.
Go ahead.
Barbara Bush, Earl's Court. I'm sort of happy you brought up 2012. I didn't live here then. But I don't think it's an issue between 2 council members and 3 council members. I do think it's an issue with council and constituents. And I think it's interesting that someone running in 2012 wrote to the South County Independent, if elected, I will always remember that the primary job of an elected representative is to represent one's constituents. That was you, Mr. Mannix, and I don't feel you're representing me or many other people at the moment.
Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed?
No.
No.
No, motion fails 2-3. Item number 15 is a motion to schedule a work session for April 8th, 2019 for the comprehensive annual financial report for the fiscal year ending June 30th, 2018.
So moved.
Second.
This is going to be scheduled for 6:30 p.m. on April 8th, 2019, if everybody is available to do that. Is everyone available that date? That's an off night.
What night? Sorry, what night of the week?
It's April 8th, 2019. It's a Monday, but it's an
Monday.
off night.
Yep.
Okay, that's fine.
Is that okay with everybody?
Yep.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed, motion approved 5-0. Item 16 is a motion to approve and award the expenditure of $14,000 to the Dunes Club, which represents 50% of the total fee of the 2019 fireworks display from the Beach Enterprise Fund. The Dunes Club has agreed to produce the 2019 fireworks from a barge subject to state and local regulations between the town beach and the Dunes Club on Thursday, July 4th, with a rain date on July 5th.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion? Any questions for Steve Wright? All right, this is a great July 4th celebration. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Motion approved 5-0. Item 17 is a motion to approve a 3-year volleyball league agreement with Newport Volleyball Club, 270 Bellevue Avenue, Suite 240, Newport, Rhode Island, 02842 at the Town Beach and authorize the town manager to sign the agreement.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion, this is changing from a 1-year to a 3-year agreement. Are there any questions on this for Parks and Rec? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Motion approved, 5-0. Item 18, is a motion to award the bid for the purchase of one adjustable portable stage system to the sole bidder, Stage Drop LLC, in the amount of $12,970.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion. Again, this comes from the Parks and Rec Department. Are there any questions? All right, seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion approved, 5-0. A motion to award the bid for the exterior painting of the South Pavilion to the lowest bidder, Scholar Painting LLC, in the amount of $18,320.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion. This comes from the Beach Enterprise Fund. Are there any questions for Steve Wright? No. All right. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion approved, 5-0. Item 20 is a motion to approve the 2019 Middlebridge Marina rental slip rates at $750 per full slip and $575 for a side slip, which reflects a $50 increase per slip for the upcoming 2019 season.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion. This item comes from the Land Trust from Middlebridge. I know that there's renovations to some of the marina building, so that these rate increases will offset that. Are there any questions?
Nope.
Nope.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Motion approved, 5-0. A motion to read, pass, and adopt as a second reading an ordinance and amendment of Chapter 731 of the Code of Ordinances of the Town of Narragansett, Rhode Island, entitled Zoning, at Section 3.2 Official Zoning Map, rezoning 3 properties to comply with designations assigned in the 2017 Narragansett Comprehensive Plan Land Use Map.
So moved.
Excuse me, Matt. It was brought to my attention early this evening that there was a typo in the draft of the ordinance with one of the designations for one of the lots. The vote was proper, but there was a typo in the ordinance. So I would recommend removing this at this point, correcting the ordinance, and then having a first reading again.
Oof. Go back to a first reading.
Okay, so I'm going to look for, can we amend it tonight for first reading, or would you think your advice is to just table it, withdraw
I
it?
mean, I don't think it's controversial, but I think it's just better to do it correctly. And
yeah. All right. Is there a motion to withdraw this item?
So moved.
Second.
Discussion based on the recommendation from the solicitor. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Motion approved, 5-0. 22 is a motion to approve, ratify, and confirm the road reconstruction of Basin Road completed by George Sherman Sand and Gravel in the amount of $35,002.50.
Second.
This is from the DPW department. Are there any questions? All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Motion approved, 5-0. Item 23 is a motion to rescind the bid award for food concession at Christopher Park for the remainder of the contract 2019 season from the awarded bidder, Correa Concessions, at the annual quoted payment of $1,600.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion. This also comes from the Parks Department. And any questions for him? All right, all in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion approved, 5-0. A motion to appoint one individual to the Conservation Commission to fill a vacant seat for an unexpired 3-year term ending on April 30th, 2019.
So moved.
Second.
Is there a motion for Richard Nassa?
I'll make the motion.
There a second?
Second.
Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Motion approved, 5-0. Item 25 is a motion to direct the acting town manager to take actions necessary to complete and maintain the public trails on Sunset Farm for the public safe access and use before August 6, 2019.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion. This item comes from the liaisons to the Land Trust, Ms. Lawler and Mr. Pugh.
I'd like to recognize Tom Rogers from the Land Trust Chair.
Yes, Thomas Rogers, 68 Earls Court. I'm the chair of the Land Trust. Sunset Farm was acquired in 1991 using open grant and open space bond money. There are existing public trails, I should say there are existing trails on the property. There's a potential for a 1.27-mile loop And there's also a beautiful clearing with a beautiful view of Salt Pond on the furthest to the west of the park. The trails were enhanced a few years ago by an Eagle Scout candidate. I forget the person's name. But currently, safe and unobstructed access by the public to the public trails is not possible at this time. So to address this issue, the Land Trust developed and approved the draft Sunset Farm Trails Plan, which is attached in the package someplace. And it was attached for town council in the future today. Last month, the Land Trust developed and approved the resolution to the town council for the purpose of completing, maintaining, and opening up these public trails before August 6, 2019, in time for Narragansett Days, but also for the statewide Land Trust Council Land Trust Days. So thank you, Jesse and Jill, for placing this resolution on the agenda this evening. Thank you as my liaisons. This is really great. In addition to these public trails, however, there's a really great potential to connect them to other trails on adjacent town-owned conservation land and also federally owned conservation properties in the vicinity. Hopefully you'll approve this resolution, and if and when you do, the Land Trust looks forward to working with Mr. Corrigan and other members of town staff and the tenant farmer to open these great trails to walking trails for the people by August. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, is there any discussion from the council?
My only question here would be, Tom went down to his seat, but Tom, could you come up to the podium for 1 second? So there are trails in Sunset Farm now?
Yes.
Right. I know there's been some talk about making a continuous loop so that people can go down. Is this what this is going to be?
It's eventually the game plan would be starting it. You really can't see it.
Right.
Well, you have to envision where the parking lot is.
I've been on the trail. So
right.
Basically what you're asking here is that we clean up the trails that we have, and then down the road we're going to make this loop at some point?
We want to make it accessible. Right now it's not accessible.
It's not accessible.
So it's obstructed, and it's not easy to find,
Right.
and it's also, I don't think, safe in some cases.
Okay.
But right now the public is not, in most cases, doesn't know it's there,
Mm-hmm.
which is unfortunate.
And who would perform the work? Mr. Farrell?
We don't know that. I'm going to work with the acting town manager, and we'll figure that out.
Okay. All right.
Okay.
Thank you.
Anything else? Thank you.
So based on the land trust conversations, is August a realistic date, or should we leave that a little open-ended?
Tom, you've been out to the trails often. Do you believe that that's a realistic date? I mean, we're looking about cleaning up, or these are already in existence.
It's very doable.
Okay.
The work itself is very doable. There's also phasing that can occur. It's very doable. It should have been done a long time ago, as you know.
Yeah, I do. And so the trails themselves, the goal would be then for Narragansett Days to be able to showcase the trails to the town and have
Yes.
the town begin to enjoy the trails themselves.
Yes.
Great goal.
You know, we've had conversations with some Boy Scout troops. There's also an opportunity for you using some of the property for low-impact camping, which is great. And hopefully we can work together with more people in the community to really enjoy this beautiful gem of a piece of property.
Absolutely. Thank you.
I'm not going to move.
You're not going to move?
No, because
Any other questions?
So, in performing the duties, is this something like the Boy Scouts are going to jump in, or is this going to be somebody you may hire, or is this just to look into it and then go from there?
Well, the plan that we have attached is it's a pretty complex, pretty comprehensive initial plan. And it talks about all the things that need to happen, like marking the trails,
Right.
like preparing maps, putting them online for the Land Trust Councils and land site, coordinating with people in town that also walk, having kiosks, let people know where things are, perhaps adding some fencing, moving some fencing, adding some gates, that sort of thing. It's a lot of work that has to be done. It's not a lot of work. It's all little pieces that can be done once we get going on it. I suspect that we can knock this off relatively quickly.
Okay. All right.
But,
Anyone else?
okay. Thank you.
Thanks. All right, if there's no comments from the public, yes, Mr. Smith.
I'm David Smith at 24 Castle Road, Narragansett. Last year, my wife Rosemary and I served on the Narragansett Bicycle Pedestrian Advisory Committee, which, among its objectives, looked to make walking a safer, more enjoyable activity for recreation and daily living. As part of our final report, Rosemary developed a list of recommended routes for a healthy walk in Narragansett. That list has become a very popular item at the Narragansett Chamber of Commerce, and there are multiple copies back on the table at the open door. Hope you take a look at it. The list includes the obvious, such as the seawall, the walk at Narragansett Beach, and the Scarborough Boardwalk. But it also suggests taking a walk, not a hike, on some of the off-road trails in Narragansett, Sunset Farm included. A dozen or so years ago, when we wanted to take a walk on an off-road wooded trail, we would head to South Kingston for Trustham Pond, or go to North Kingston to go out on Rome Point. And these out-of-town locations and others became default destinations when we wanted to share the beauty of South County with our guests. But now, thanks to the effort of the town and some nonprofit organizations, there are several options for a walk in the woods right in town. Under the stewardship of the Friends of Canachet Farm and before it, the Narragansett Tree Society, Canachet Farm Trail offers access from 3 different locations, multiple historic stone walls, wildlife inhabiting a successional forest, and a spectacular views of Pettaquamsett Cove. The Whale Rock Trail, built by the Nature Conservancy, leads you from Old Boston Neck Road to Cormorant Point and Camp Varnum to views of Dutch Island, Beaver Tail, and of course the remnant of the Whale Rock Light. And to the south is Black Point for a more dramatic take on the Rhode Island coast. Now let's add Sunset Farm to the mix. A 1-mile walk around a historic farm to coves on Point Judith Pond, where heron and egret feed and nest. Like other walks, the trail is on public land, our land, purchased for protection of open space and enjoyment by the public. It is accessible off a major road. There is already parking and a logical location for a trailhead and signage. The interior portions of the trail are ready for prime time. All that is required is some fencing and some mowing to have the southern leg of the trail ready for early August, a more than reasonable deadline. This is not a heavy lift. Let's get it done. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, yes, Rosemary.
Rosemary Smith, 24 Castle Road. Narragansett not only has the most beautiful beaches in the state as viewed on Rhode Island television stations, but it also should be known for its beautiful walks and trails. Land owned by the town of Narragansett, the Rhode Island Department of Environmental Management, U.S. Fish and Wildlife, the Nature Conservancy, and the private areas such as Newman Park are an attraction for those looking for outdoor recreation. These walks bring visitors to our town, especially in the shoulder seasons, which brings economic development for its businesses. It is also a healthy form of recreation. Sunset Farm Trail provides an easy access road, a place to park, a beautiful, picturesque setting, and a connection to the other walking trails in the area. The farm was bought with town and open space funding. It needs to be available for all of us to use. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Mary Ann Cronley, 82 Harbor Island Road. Can you hear me? Anyway, I would like to express my support for opening up this town property to access for walking trails. Thanks a lot.
Correct?
Thank you.
The Eagle Scout was related to you? No? Okay, I'm sorry.
All right, anyone else? Right, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye, all opposed, motion approved 5-0. Item 26 is a motion to amend the rules and procedures for meetings and move open forum to directly after consent agenda.
Yep.
I'll move that motion.
Second.
Discussion, so the problem with this motion is a little bit like a motion to reconsider.
It's not quite. So to reconsider, it would have to go back to its original place on the agenda. This is actually a different placement for open forum, so it's a new motion.
Oh, because the motion from January 22nd was a motion to discuss and possibly amend rules and procedures for the Narragansett Town Council meetings as adopted August 6, 2018.
Yep.
And then we voted a motion by Councilor Lawler, seconded by Councilor Lima, to amend the motion to keep the changes as agreed upon at the last meeting with open forum scheduled at the end of the meeting.
Correct.
And that was voted on.
Yeah, I mean, we can amend.
So you want to...
We can amend town council rules at any point. So doing that is not a reconsideration. It's always open to be amended, and that's what we're doing here. Because there's various rules in the town council rules. So that's what we're, we could always put that on
That's
there.
fine. I mean, I would
makes
argue
sense,
it's a
right?
motion to reconsider, but
We
if
could
you
go-
want to kind of go ahead, that's fine.
Okay, sounds good. So January 7th, President Mannix stated that he intended to move open forum to the end of the meeting. The reasoning was to get through the last 4 meetings of the town manager. And I quote, or to quote you, you said, that is the reason for this move. So now that Jim Manny's gone, Sean Corrigan's in as the interim, it would make sense, based on your statement, to bring open forum back towards the beginning of the meeting. So my recommendation would be right after consent agenda. And unless there's some reason why you changed your mind since that original statement. So if you want to speak on that, that's fine.
Thank you. Is there anyone else?
So I'll speak on this. So originally, I looked into this open forum and putting it towards the end because I felt it was important for our town workers who sit here for 12, 14 hours a day, that we could get them home maybe at a reasonable hour and do our business first, and then go to that open forum, because it just continues on. So I looked at other councils that do this, and there's quite a few. There's other communities that have the open forum at the end. I think it's a little bit of consideration towards our town workers. They're here all day, and then we just carry on and look at what time it is, okay? So for me, I'm fine with the open forum being at the end. We can get through business within an hour and 15 minutes, 8:30, 8:45, and then have open forum. So I'm from the open forum at the end.
But doesn't it take the same amount of time whether it's at the beginning or the end?
I'd rather have the open forum because people can come up and speak and you may have 30 people that'll come up and speak, and if they each have 3 minutes, that's quite a bit of time. So,
but
I just want open forum at the end. That's what I'm going to
So you just want it at the end, okay.
Right.
Anyone else? All right, anyone from the public? Yes.
Carleen Town, Wood Hill Road. First of all, I'd like to thank Dr. Alba for creating the forum page on Facebook. It has given so many of us the opportunity to discuss issues in Narragansett 24/7, unlike here where we have to wait until 10 p.m. twice a month to be awarded a 3-minute window to comment during open forum. I think we all know that the move to the end of the meeting was not, as suggested by the President, to get through town business before Mr. Manny left his position, but to eliminate an entire population of library supporters unable to be here after 10 p.m. Let's face it, folks, the town manager, town solicitor, town clerk, councilors, and other town officials have to stay until all the business of the evening is conducted. So why would it matter if open forum were at the beginning or the end of the meeting, except as a ploy to discourage a certain segment from being heard? Last month, a young girl, I think she said she was either 4th or 5th grade, came here to give an impassioned plea to get you to support the library project. No, she's not a taxpayer or a registered voter here, but she is the future of our town and has a right to express her opinion in front of the council. You cannot expect children to wait until 10 p.m. to be heard on a school night. At the opposite end of the spectrum, you have old people like me who are uncomfortable driving at night. Unlike the story of Cinderella when the magical spell didn't end until midnight, some of us turn back into pumpkins at 9 p.m. Please move open forum back to the beginning of the meeting.
Thank you. Yes.
I'm Deb Kopek, 963 Point Judith Road. I actually was going to bring this up in open forum, but I got a little lucky, I guess. At the last meeting, I did speak about moving open forum back to its original position on the town council agenda. Since then, I too have done some research and discovered that actually most town council agendas place open forum about midway through the evening, some earlier, only 2 later, besides Narragansett, there, Coventry, and North Kingstown have their forums at the end. And not surprisingly, upon reading minutes from those 2 towns, there are far fewer comments than in any other towns like Westerly, East Greenwich, and Exeter among them. And speaking of East Greenwich, they had their open forum at the end of their meeting until recently, when their entire organization was displaced through election, and theirs is now the 3rd item on their agenda. So once again, I urge you to reconsider this, in my opinion, hasty change with respect to the democratic process and change it to an earlier part of the session. Thank you.
Thank you. Karen.
Karen Chubb, Charlotte, 63 Wanda Street, Narragansett. I, too, had asked in an email on behalf of the seniors. I'm a vice president of the senior activity group over at Narragansett. And a lot of the seniors have said they would come to the meeting, but they can't stay that late. And I, among them, have trouble staying awake because I'm a very early riser and I don't like driving at night. And it gets colder and icier. And I really think it's a suppression of democracy. I think that's the real reason you moved it to the end. Because look at the audience now. So many people have left because they don't want to stay to the end of the meeting. And I think it's important to have the discourse in a democracy and to listen to the public and not add them as an afterthought. I think it's really disgraceful that you've moved it to the end. And I think it's a power move. So you don't have to hear it from a lot of the people that would normally come. And also, young families might like to come and participate in their government, but they can't keep their children up that late. And you refuse to even entertain you vote as a block no matter what. And it's like, it's really disgraceful that this is what's happened to our democracy. I feel like I'm living in a monarchy form of government more than a democracy. And on that note, how do you treat the Board of Trustees, people that are dedicated to the library? I know Mr. Mannix, you had one time said to me, it's a special interest group. Yeah, we're especially interested in the library, and our job is to be the guardians of the library. And it's like you don't trust the citizens of the town, you don't trust the committees. The only ones you trust are yourselves and your constituents.
Thank you. Yes.
Susan Amoruso, 111 West Bay Drive, Narragansett. I'm back again. I've missed 2 town meetings, and I wanted to speak about this open forum thing. I tried staying I was actually in attendance at a meeting a month ago, but the person I gave a ride to had to leave because of their back, so I couldn't stay. So that eliminated me from that one. The last town council meeting was during school vacation, and I had my grandkids with me, so I could have easily brought them to the town council meeting so they could have heard me speak as an interested voter, and they would have learned a valuable lesson. But because it's at the end, 10 o'clock is too late for kids in 4th grade as far as I'm concerned. Maybe some people will let them stay up, but they missed out on an opportunity, plus I missed out on attending and being able to speak. I mean, I could have come, but I wanted to address this issue. So now we're here again, and I'm here, and I just think that, I don't think, first of all, that town workers, not to devalue them, have any more rights than anyone else, because a lot of people, I'm retired, so I don't have the issue about that, but I'm older. But what holds a worker for that person ahead of a mother who's got kids they're trying to get into bed, and they have to hire a babysitter, and they want to do it at a timely hour? Or what about other people who are working, who want to attend this? So I think you just, in the interest of getting as many ideas, and when you look at the agenda and you read something, you think, oh, I'd like to talk about that, you know, or something that comes up. I don't think having the open agenda would, I don't know, reduce it that much. I just feel strongly that you want to hear from as many people as you can, and I think it should be at the beginning, not at this late time.
Thank you. Stanley.
Stan Wachowski, Narragansett. I am very happy that we have it at the end. And one reason is it's hard for me to speak in front of people. If you have a pile of people back here, I get nervous. So I'd rather have fewer people here when I speak. I really would rather have fewer people. So that's number one. That's number one. Number two is if people are too old, too tired, whatever, they can send an email, they can write a letter, they can do it. You know, if you don't have to speak up here, there's other means of communication can be done. Actually, it's your job to conduct your business first. Do your business first. And then you can listen to the million of ideas that we have out here and go on to 11 o'clock. It's okay, you know. But I think it's very good where it is at the end. I'm really happy with it. And when people feel very concerned about an issue, they will stay. And that way you'll get somebody who's really concerned and informed, and you get actually get a better presentation if you wait, because they're right on this thing. So I think we ought to leave it here at the end, and it's just fine. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, Meg.
Good evening, Council President. So a couple of weeks ago, I was leaving the town hall, and I ran into a woman that I hadn't seen in town hall for quite a while, Carol Stewart. You all know her. And I said, hi, Carol, and she said, oh, it's so late. I hate coming out here at this time of night, and it's so cold. She came in here, and the first thing she said to you in open forum, which began after 9:30, was, I had to leave my home on a cold winter night and come down here after 9:15. So if you don't do this for any of us, or you don't like the people that want a new library, that's appalling. But why don't you think about that one woman, Carol Stewart, and do it for her? Now, the right of petition is expressly set out in the First Amendment. And you know that approaching you in open forum is the purest form of democracy that some of us have. And our town manager, Jim Manny, spoke eloquently about that and applauded all of us for teaching him so much about that purest form of democracy. So I'll leave you with these words from the Declaration of Independence. On July 4th, 1776, the country's founders adopted a famous statement of principles and list of grievances, declaring that in every state of these oppressions, we have petitioned for redress in the most humble terms. Our repeated petitions have been answered only by repeated injury. A prince whose character is thus marked by every act which may define a tyrant is unfit to be the ruler of a free people. We fought for a democratic republic, and we don't want to live under tyranny.
Is there anyone else?
Just, I think they're good.
Is there anyone else?
Yeah, I'd like to say one thing. Since joint motion here. Or did you already speak?
Well, I just had another. I didn't really get an answer on it, and you don't have to answer. But it's just confusing to me because you gave a specific reason and a timeline for moving it. It was a 4-meeting thing. That was your reason. It's right there. So that's up. So I'm curious what your stance is now, if you're going to vote to move it back, or if you have a different feeling about it.
All right, Patrick.
There's no answer there. Get your next meeting. Okay. I have a solution. Why don't we do both? We'll put it right after the consent agenda, as Councilman Pugh has suggested, and we'll also keep it at the end of the meeting. So if anybody's left standing, they can certainly voice their opinions. But again, during open forum, before the agenda items, people can come up and speak during open forum. They can't speak on the agenda items that are listed for that evening anyways. So it isn't like there's a big barrage. It's usually the same few there. Stanley, Mr. Concerned for Time over here. He's been up here 4 years. I probably got 12 hours with this guy. So I think we have enough evening to put it on both. Put it right after the consent agenda, and then again at the end of the meeting if somebody has something else to say. So.
Thank you. Anyone else? All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed?
No.
No.
No. Motion failed 2-3. Item number 27 is a motion to reschedule a public hearing on the issue of amending Narragansett zoning ordinances with regard to accessory structures in light of the Rhode Island General Assembly's passage of H7741 Substitute A, which amended height limits for buildings under Rhode Island General Laws, Section 45-24-31.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion. This is slated for April 1st, but I know there's a lot on April 1st. Terry, should we maybe think about a later date? Go to the 15th. All right. This would be a motion to schedule this for April 15th, which would give the planning board also more time as well.
Good.
All right. Is everyone, that's at 8 o'clock. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Motion approved 5-0. And now we do have our open forum. Comments of citizens, residents accessing this portion of the meeting are neither adopted nor endorsed by this body, but heard as requested. And please come forward if you have anything you want to comment on in the town. Yes.
Number 4 tonight. I know I mentioned, what I wanted to say first is, I find it amazing how we get cut off at 3 minutes and never have a chance for rebuttal, but you can talk forever, and you can rebut anything you want we say up here. But that's not in my speech. I spoke earlier about Dr. Alba's Facebook page. And I've noticed that Mr. Mannix, Ms. Lawler, and Mr. Lima are not members of the group, but I suspect that they have spies who report comments to them so they can have their rebuttals ready if confronted, as Ms. Lawler had with her ready-at-hand ballot numbers to defend her position that the number of ballots each candidate received really didn't count. All that mattered was that the 5 top voters got the job. As much as I was disappointed in the election, in the results of the election, I have to accept that the voters spoke and elected you. What I don't understand is how Ms. Lawler can use logic to defend the results of the election, but ignore the voters' wishes to move forward with the library project when the top vote getter in the entire election was the overwhelming approval of the library bond issue by more than 67%. And no, Mr. Mannix, I don't need a lecture on the fact that the bond was merely permission to borrow and not a mandate to spend. We understand how bonds work. People buy bonds and expect a return on their money in the form of interest. As the bill payers in this town, we understand that the principal and interest will be paid with our tax dollars. We understood that when we voted in 2016, and we understand those economics today. What we don't understand is your unwillingness to abide by the voters' wishes. The last thing I want to say is a psychologist would have a heyday with Mr. Mannix's verbal and nonverbal reactions to comments from both sides of the fence. You smirked when Ms. Meg Rogers smirked when she finished talking. And I find that disgusting.
When?
Wenham's 30 Wood Avenue. I put in, I think, 3 petitions 17 days ago, and the town charter said after 14 days they're supposed to appear on a town council agenda. They're not here. Is there a reason for that?
With the opinions came in from the solicitor on Friday. I haven't grabbed mine yet. I think you put them in our mailboxes, correct?
Well, I don't. That doesn't address the charter. Charters, you could have put them on on Wednesday if you needed to put them on. The charter says they're supposed to be here at this council meeting.
We didn't have the opinions which we would attach to the agenda item. So they'll be on March 18th.
So it's Mark's fault.
They'll be on. It's not his fault. It's going to be on for March 18th. The
charter says they're supposed to be here.
I understand what the charter says. I'm not going to get any give and take, but with it, we haven't had initiatives anyone could remember in a long time.
Oh, I do. I went through the last one with Matt Callahan.
So
I've been through it before, and I know the procedure.
Thank you, Wen. March 18th, they'll be on.
This is the second charter violation that you've had since you've been president.
Thank you, Wen. Thank you so much. Thank you. Yes, Karen.
As most of you probably know, very sadly, we lost a son from this community. I'm talking about Christopher Menke, who passed away in Texas as a result of a motorcycle accident. And it was a family that my family knew very, very well for 30 years. And they've just been a remarkable support to our family. And when we went to the memorial service, I was struck by how crowded the memorial service was and how many youth returned from where they were living to honor Chris. And it really struck me that the community of Narragansett has really changed, and it's changing for the worse. I mean, every year we lose students and we get more and more rentals, and it's missing that community feeling. With the school department having had 5 children that graduated from the high school, one of our concerns when we moved here my older daughter was a junior and my third child was a freshman, and there was a lack of courses for the students to take. And I had gone to the principal and said, can they go to South Kingston, North Kingston? Can they take them at URI? But there were a lack of courses. And what's happening now is we're importing students, but we're not importing families. And it's changing the character of the town. I mean, it's like children used to have relationships where they could go out and play with their neighborhood friends. Now it's to the point where you have to get in a car or and a lot of parents work and bring children someplace else to play. And it's like your neighbors, if you need a ride to the train station, your neighbors now are mostly investment property owners where they have students. And with the public transportation, the whole town is really, it's sort of like a ghost town in the center of town. We purposely moved to the center of town to be near the school, to be near the library, to be near the IGA market, to be near the beach. We didn't live in the North End. We didn't live in Bonnet Shores. And it was a great childhood for the kids, but none of my grandchildren will ever return here. It's too expensive for their parents to afford a house. And it's very sad. People coming to town won't have the same kind of community feeling. And that's what just really kills me, because it's not only the beach, it's not only a tourist town, it was a home for our family. And now I know seniors are moving out of town because they don't have the supports that they need in the community. They're moving to South Kingston, they're moving to other places, but it's very sad that my children can't even afford to come back here because all the houses are being sold to investment people. Unless you're very wealthy and can live in one of the secluded areas, which are wealthier homes, and maybe that's not as much of a problem there because there are children there. But it's also a deterrent to getting people to move here. And I'm talking not only the industries that we don't have, but doctors, lawyers. Do you think they're going to want to move to a town where the high school is just losing students? And the only kids that can come to the high school from out of town are people with cars. So that gives the advantage.
Thank you, Karen. Thank you.
Well, yeah, I know.
It's a concern. It's a huge concern.
It's a huge concern, but what are you doing about it?
Thank you, Karen. David.
Good evening. Thank you. Dave Avedizian, Woodward Avenue, Narragansett. About a year ago, the town council agreed to do a study of residential parking in town and to put together some experts within the town offices to study the residential parking issue. As you know, about a year ago, I said it's very frustrating to park around town, especially during the summer months. And what's brought it to mind is about a month from now, you're going to see all the non-residents/residents move back into the pier area with their Florida license plates and be able to park anywhere in town. Yet I still, as a taxpayer in this town, will not be able to park anywhere in this town. My truck is registered in Narragansett. I pay property tax in Narragansett. I am a resident in this town, and my kids do attend Narragansett schools. I am the exact family you want in this town, yet I'm told I cannot park anywhere in this town. No one in this town can say that this town is more crowded than Newport during the summer. Yet Newport residents can get a parking sticker and park anywhere in town. Yet residents of this town, whether you live in Galilee, whether you live in Bonnet, or whether you live just outside the pier area, cannot do that. I please, hope, and implore you to look at the residential parking stickers in this area again and see if we could do something about it so that residents can park anywhere in town no matter where you live. It seems only right. It even seems like it's part of the 14th Amendment, to be honest with you. So please look at that, and thank you very much for your time.
Thank you. Anyone else? Yes.
Hi, Susan Amoruso, 111 West Bay Drive again. I just wanted to say that I'm very disappointed in the vote about the open forum. I feel that people are giving you legitimate reasons, but I really feel like everything is just falling on deaf ears because the vote's taken, blah, 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 blah. It's disturbing. And I have attended these library meetings and things, and I personally want to say that I really, really find it offensive that the word mob is being used to describe any group in this town. Because I don't think anybody, whether you're for or against the library, for or against parking, I don't think anything in this town qualifies for a mob. So I think that descriptive adjective should be eliminated in further letters to the editor or anything in public. I guess part of the record. I mean, just because someone doesn't agree with you and has, you know, the wherewithal to talk about it, attend meetings, and express that you disagree with somebody, that does not make a mob. So I really hope that this word will be eliminated from this discussion. As unpleasant as it is not a mob.
Thank you. Lori.
Lori Kelly, 25 Wildfield Farm Road. So one of the problems with having the forum at the end of the night is there's no one here. So in the past, when the open forum was early in the meeting, the house was full, and some of the historical societies made announcements in Petasquamscot, and the you know, there's all sorts of educational programs going on, and those were read into the record in open forum. So that's what I'm going to do now, even though I'm just basically informing the 5 of you. On January 26th, from noon to 1:30, we had another one of our really successful library outreach programs for its outreach to the community, not just educational and informational, but we do a stone soup, which the fire chief has been gracious enough to come, and coincidentally, Dean Hoxie did it when he was acting town manager, where they read a book called Stone Soup, and it's a community event. Lots of families come, lots of elderly people come, and this year, our numbers were over 209 pounds of canned goods and personal care items were donated for the community, the neediest in the community. $157 in cash donations, which went to the community food market at St. Peter's Church. 79 people showed up before we started serving soup, which is also very significant because they knew it started at noon, but they were there beforehand to get their soup. And over 180 people attended this event. Like I said, the fire department was involved. They also have some of the firemen come over in their gear, so the children are really excited about that. The food is always donated from local restaurants, so Arturo Joe's, Belmont's, Coast Guard House, Crazy Burger, Gansett Wraps, Mariner Grill, Panera Bread, Shaw's, Stop and Shop, and Twin Willows. I might have missed someone. And this year we had the very exciting frozen soup, which is not really frozen, but it was Rob Satalino, who's related to one of the librarians, made a soup in honor of the movie Frozen, which was also a very big hit with the kids. So again, you know, I know you tend to think that we just should have books in our library, but our mandate from the state is outreaching to the community on a whole bunch of different events, and Stone Soup was another successful one this year. Thank you.
Thank you. Meg.
Margaret Rogers, 68 Earls Court. I had to exit the room, but I believe Council President was discussing a situation where he was in the minority in the town council and how he was able to work and collaborate with others. So I think it's an awesome opportunity for self-reflection, Matthew. If you think back to when you and I really started working together, you and I used to meet in the home of Mr. and Mrs. Bob Shields, who are library proponents, as I am. And we really worked very intimately together, didn't we? And we worked together with you, and you were the only voice in the beginning in the town council who wanted to prevent Deepwater Wind from laying their cable on the town beach. And many of the same people who are involved in library advocacy now, many of those people, I think of Myron and Marie Waldman, the Shields, myself, the list could go on and on. You were in the minority in that council. The council president was Council President James Callahan. He is, we have a nonpartisan council, but it's well known that he's a fairly progressive Democrat. Councilman Doug McLaughlin, who maybe is a little more moderate Democrat, and Council President Bonanno, they were very strong advocates for the Deepwater Wind project. You and I, the Shields, the Waldmans, many other people, as I said, many of whom are library advocates, all worked very intimately together in this town hall, and we prevented the beach from being torn up and Deepwater Wind from laying their cable at our town beach. And how did that happen? Because all those people who were Democrat affiliated listened to the will of the people, Matthew, led by you. And I never heard you call us an angry mob. When we stood here and we addressed Mr. Grzybowski and Mr. Sabatoni and all the union leaders, you never used the word angry mob about me or Mr. Shields or Miss Waldman or anyone else that was helping you in then. It's only useful to use it now. So I think it's a marvelous opportunity for self-reflection, because all those Democrat affiliated in our nonpartisan town council, you led, you were the one that exhibited the leadership, and they listened to the will of the people and put aside their own personal preference to have the cable laid at the beach, which is what they wanted, because they listened to the will of the people. And that's why people are so upset. So it's a beautiful illustration of what went right, and now under your leadership, how everything is going wrong.
Thank you, but they all, Meg, remember there was a unanimous vote not to do that. It wasn't a split vote.
There was no referendum on the ballot.
It was not a split vote of the council. It was a unanimous vote. Anyway, Stanley. Stanley, did you speak during public comment?
No, I don't think I did. I was during one of the others. I forget which one it is.
Read me a bedtime story a little later.
I can't resist. I'm going to keep it short. I'm going to get out of here as fast as I'm going to get out of here. I want to just say that our library staff has the skill set which has served the community at the highest level. They are beautiful people. Our library staff are beautiful people. Now, in order to help them along, I would like to expand their facilities. I'd like to give them more room to exercise their expertise and help the town. And that's why I say, can they partner up with 3 other libraries in town, one at each school? We have a library at each school. We have empty classrooms in each school. Can we expand the libraries in the schools with extra classrooms and allow the main library personnel to train them or do whatever they have to do, so now we have plenty of facilities for the library's staff to do their job and get out to the children, which I think is get them off the phone a little bit maybe. So we do have facilities available. Is another option. That's another option. We don't always have to build big buildings when we have buildings there and we have libraries there and we have a librarian there as an asset. She could probably use some help. I would like to see, maybe the kids can do yoga in the gym. I don't know. The kids, computers. Schools could have the computers in the classroom, so now they go to the library, then go to the computer in the classroom. There's some classrooms around there. I'm sure they can make them not usable for the library. So now the kids can go and learn the computers. I know there's a professor that volunteers to help children out. Maybe there's other professor will come and help children at these libraries, whether it's reading or computers or music, I don't know. Flexibility. So there are numerous options available we can't pursue than extreme large building, which sometimes is intimidating. And when with the big building, we're going to have sections for children here. I went to North Kingston finally again and saw all the children here, children there, all different sections. They couldn't really intermingle. They're all separate sections, and that's what we have. We have 3 separate sections here with children that could utilize the library. What we need is that staff who's so effective to partner up with them to help out. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else? All right, seeing none, we have a motion to retire to executive session of the Town Council in accordance with Rhode Island General Laws, Section 42-46-4 and Section 42-46-5, subsection A. Real estate. I'm not done. Real estate acquisition or lease of real property for public purposes or of the disposition of publicly held property in accordance with Rhode Island General Laws 42-46-5, subsection A5, the Belmont Building, and collective bargaining, firefighters, IAFF Local 1589 labor contract update in accordance with Rhode Island General Laws 42-46-5, subsection A2. Is there a motion? Patrick? Is there a second?
Second.
Roll call, Mr. Pugh.
Jesse Pugh here.
Aye or no? Nay?
Aye.
Mr. Murray? Aye. Mr. Mannix, aye.
Jill Lawler, aye.
Richard Lima, aye.
Thank you, everyone.